no further ado, I'm just going to do a short introduction here. We are honored to feature a lineup of distinguished speakers who will share their insights on pivotal initiatives. As many of you know, the Main Street, Clackamas County Courthouse has now moved from Main Street up to the Red Soils Complex. You're available to go up there and take a tour of that building. It's amazing. It's big, really big, but it was long overdue. The courthouse that we have on Main Street was built decades ago when the Clackamas County region was much smaller and didn't have the population base that we have today. They basically just ran out of room for court activities. You had the people that were being put on trial going past the jury people, and it was just not a good situation. So that's going to be one of the major topics we're going to be discussing today. So let's get into the names of our speakers. Juliana Allen is going to speak first. Many of you met Juliana before. She's sitting here in the bright blouse. You can't miss her. She's doing an amazing job with the DOCA, staying in touch with all the businesses on Main Street, and just keeping everybody abreast of what new activities. I understand we've got a new restaurant that's coming to downtown I was reading about. They chose Oregon City out of a lot of other places they could have gone to, and I think that's just great. Congratulations. Did you recruit them? Well, go ahead and say yes anyway. All right. But one of the things that Juliana is going to be talking about is this Saturday is the First City Celebration on Main Street. And it's a fairly big event. A lot of vendors, a lot of attendees. The Oregon City Business Alliance will have a booth there. We'll be next to the OC Chamber and some others. So if you get a chance, I believe it's like mid-morning to late afternoon. What are the hours for First City? 11 to 6? Okay, great. So that'll be this Saturday, the 26th. So hope to see a lot of you there. They better have a booth there. Then we also have Ben James. He's the president and founder of Elevate Wealth Advisors. He's going to present on his innovative brick project, illustrating how developments contribute to the revitalization of our area. And if you've been to the elevator lately, Ben is the one that's doing all that update of that building there. So if you get a chance to swing by there after today's forum or some other time when you're in that area, stop by and take a look. It's amazing what Ben's up to. And then, of course, last but not least, we have Seth Henderson. And Seth has spoken before to our group here when he was involved with the landfill project not too far from the Abernathy Center. And he, out of 440 requests for applications to revitalize the existing Main Street Courthouse, he was the only one that submitted a completed application. So, whoa, good for Seth. And a lot of us were able to give testimony in support of his application at a Clackamas County public hearing. But he's going to provide an update on his discussions he's had with Clackamas County staff. Hopefully we are making progress, but I'm going to let him go ahead and share the latest and the greatest with you. I do want to go ahead and introduce our elected officials. Well, even though they are not here yet, we have Clackamas County Chair Craig Roberts, Clackamas County Commissioner Paul Savas, Clackamas County Commissioner Martha Schrader, Clackamas County Commissioner Ben West, and Clackamas County Commissioner Diana Helm. If you'd like to give them a hand. And then we have Danelle Tessa with Clackamas River Water. Danelle right over there. Chris Hawes with the Fire District. Chris, I saw you in line. Brian Nava, Clackamas County Treasurer. I know, Brian, you're here. There you are. And I think that's everybody I've got. Ryan Pitts, with a school board director. Ryan, are you here? He must be with the commissioners today. So hopefully he'll be here soon. So for all of you that have been here before, you know the blue cards are the ones that we use to go ahead and ask questions to our presenters. Go ahead and fill out the questions whenever you want. We wait to the very end of the final presenter's presentation before we go ahead and start asking the questions, but we will try to get all of your questions answered. And what I'll do is try to lump some of them that have the same topic together. So we may not read your specific question, but your question will be interwoven into other questions that had similar subject matter. So just keep that in mind. If you're not a member of the Oregon City Business Alliance and would like to join us, we have little cards on the table that have a QR code that you can scan. It'll take you directly to our OCBA website. You can look at some of our past forums that we've had over the years and find out a little bit more about who we are. So that being said, it's about 1:15. We want to go ahead and get started. So Juliana, it's all yours. Step right up.
Hi, I enjoy my microphone and this clicker thing, so we're off to a really great start. Okay, for those of you that do not know me, my name is Juliana Allen. I am the Executive Director at the Downtown Oregon City Association. I have been here for about 2 years now, and prior to that, I owned a small business on Main Street, Mary Rose Boutique, and I also ran a foundation called the Mary Rose Foundation. So that's a little bit about my background, and I am excited to tell you all what's happening in our downtown district. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about our organization as a whole. So Downtown Oregon City Association is a registered 501c3 nonprofit, and we operate under Main Street America. So it's we're a small level, and then there's a state level, and then there's a big national level as well. So we are under that umbrella, and with that, that's how we are organized. So we are organized under 4 different pillars. So we focus on the design aspect of downtown, economic vitality, so that means like business support and recruitment, and then promotion, which is what most people think about when they think about our organization. So I'm going to touch on the first city celebration that's coming up this Saturday, but we do a lot of other things as well. The last pillar that we are really organized under is organization, which makes sense. Okay, so I have joked about this many times, but since starting in this job 2 years ago, I have had 3 conversations almost every single day. The courthouse, parking, and the houseless population. Those are the big things that are facing our downtown district, and those are the things that most people always want to talk about. So that's kind of the general thing of everything that we are facing as a downtown district. I'm really excited to hear Seth's presentation on the courthouse and give you all an update on that. So I'm not going to really say much about that. I'm going to let him talk about that. Parking, let me just tell you that since the courthouse moved out, parking is not an issue down there. There is ample amounts of parking downtown. So if that is your reason for not coming down, it's not really a reason anymore. There is plenty of parking, and people can always park up on the hill and take the elevator down, which it's a really fun experience for people. Part of our job is also managing the elevator staff, and we have such a great group of people that are really, they are elevator ambassadors. They know about the town, they know about the city, they know about all the things that are happening. If you have any questions about where to go, what to do, you just go up to the elevator and ask our people up there, and they are more than happy to share anything about it. Well, and people experiencing houselessness, that's an issue. That's something that we are facing, and we're in a downtown, so of course, we're on a max line. Of course, that's an issue. What I will address about that is one thing that I have done as the director is focused on our relationships with OCPD and the Father's Heart. So there has been a lot of communication on both of those channels on it's here, it's happening. So what are we going to do to address it? So I can assure you we are having these conversations. I know that it's hard to see any progress because it is what it is, but I can promise we are doing our best to address it as best as we can. It's a massive problem, and it doesn't start at the city level, it doesn't end at the city level. So we're doing what we can, and we understand the toll it takes on business owners and everybody. So moving right along. Okay, this is fascinating. So, part of our scope of practice is we manage the elevator, and one of those things that we do there is we track the amount of people that come in to the elevator every day. I have compared data from May and June of 2024 to May and June of 2025. Courthouse moved out in May of 25. I find it fascinating and very noteworthy that May 24 to May 25, we saw an increase of about 2,000 people riding the elevator. Similar statistics for June of 24 compared to June of 25. So all that to say, it is interesting. It's still early that the courthouse moved out, so this data is going to take a little bit, it's going to take a little while to shake out and settle and see how it really lands. But what we are seeing right now is increase in foot traffic in the district compared based on the elevator statistics. And that's the data that we have, so that's the data I'm going to talk about. And so it's interesting to think about, like, why is that a thing? What is happening here? Possibly the availability of parking. That could be a factor, and more people being like, oh, hey, I can go downtown. It's really not a big deal to park down there anymore, so I'm going to go downtown and have breakfast. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's not. I'm not really sure, but I like seeing those numbers. So whatever it is, let's just keep doing that, right? Oh, and I did want to touch on the previous slide, actually. This is very fun for me. Thank you, Matthew. The people have asked me a lot, like, how are the businesses doing since the courthouse moved? It's another question I get most days, and the answer to that is it really does vary depending on the business you're talking to. Some businesses are doing much better because, hey, people can park now, and they're showing more customers, they're having more customers. Other businesses are struggling a little bit more because they did rely on juror traffic coming in. So it really, really varies, but I will say the vast majority of them are doing okay. Vast majority have not been super impacted by the courthouse moving as of yet. So it's only been 2 months, so again, it'll take a little while to shake out, but this is what we are seeing right now. Okay, so looking forward, like Kent mentioned, we have the First City Celebration taking place this Saturday in the downtown district from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. If you have not been to the First City Celebration, I'm telling you, this is the year you want to go. We have, I think Ryan and I, that's Ryan over there, he works with me. We've been planning this for like 6 months at a minimum. It's probably been more like 9. Probably been kind of the whole year. But we are very, very excited that this event is right around the corner. So if you haven't been before, it's the largest street festival we put on in the district. We have vendors, we have music. Porch Fest is sponsoring our main stage, so they have a whole lineup of different people performing bands. We have different performance areas as well, just highlighting different aspects of the culture. We have an entire area for kids. We're calling it Kid Zone, so that's a lot of fun things for everybody. So if you have not been before, I urge you to please come down and just walk around and have fun. We also, I think this is for the first time, OCBA and Chamber are both having booths. So we're going to all be right next to each other, and it'll be, it's really nice to see just the partnership between the organizations. So I'm thrilled about that. So I hope to see you guys on Saturday. Another thing that we are working on is lighting in the district. So a grant we secured is under a campaign called the Well Lit Trees campaign. In the next slide, I will show you a visual on what that is. But it's dark in the district. It's dark. At night, we need lights. Lights for safety, lights for just a lot of different things. We need lights down there. So I'm super happy that we were able to secure a grant for this lighting project. Again, I'll show you in the next slide what it looks like, but it's going to light between 5th and 10th, which is it's a large stretch to be lit. So we're going to have uplights installed in the tree wells along both sides of the streets for 5 blocks. We are in our fundraising session for that, so if anybody wants to donate, I'm going to show a QR code on the next slide, so no shame. We need to donate. We need to raise some money for this campaign because we need lights and we need money, so I'm going to say thank you in advance. Okay, one more thing that I want to touch on that we have been working on, and we are currently looking for funding for this project, but it is called Alleyway Illuminations. So we found this artist who does like light installations. So it's a really neat, accessible art form. So it is light and sound installation in an alleyway. I will show you photos as well, but those are 2 of the big projects that we have been working on this last year, in addition to the First City Celebration. Oh, sorry, the formatting does not look good. I promised it looked better at one point. So this is the Well Lit Trees campaign. So this is what's gonna install the uplights in 5th through 10th in the downtown district. So you can see over the before photo, just look at the tree part. I know it's a little bit hard to tell. This photo was taken in, I'm gonna say it was December, because you can see some other like Christmas light things around, but just look at the actual tree part. So the lights are in the tree wells. They project lighting up, so you can see the difference that it makes in the lighting of the tree. And again, if you wanna donate, that's how you do it, right there. Thank you. Okay, this is what alleyway illumination looks like. So the goal with this one is it's going to be on 8th Street. So the courthouse is where 8th Street is. So we wanted to do something that is going to keep vitality there, keep people engaged while the courthouse is being developed. So we came up with this really cool lighting project. So it's a series of LED bars that have a lighting and sound component. Another really big piece of this is that it is accessible art, which is something that we are always looking for. Like, how can we bring the arts to the district, and how can we make it free and accessible to the general public? And this is what we came up with, and we are really excited about trying to find funding. So if anybody, once again, knows of anybody who would like to help us get this off the ground, we would really appreciate that. We also have a QR code up there if this feels more aligned for what you like to do. Okay, and we are, I'm coming to the end of my little talk here. So I want to give a big thank you to our board of directors. We have a board of, I'm going to say 10 or 11 people at this point. That's all of them. And then Ryan and myself are in the office. And yeah, just thank you all so much. A mission statement, cultivating community and commerce in the downtown district. So thank you all, and I'll be looking forward to questions at the end of this. So thank you.
Engraved brick campaign. Maybe a third. And then out of those people, how many people have bought bricks? That's about right. Okay, here we go. Boy, I sound different in a microphone. Okay. And the clicker? Oh, okay. And you go back. All right. Okay, so my name is Ben James. My wife, Marky James, and I were fortunate enough to buy this weird, quirky little piece of property at the top of the elevator about a decade ago. So I'm going to share my story with you about that property and the development and where we're going, and then talk about the brick campaign that we've got going. It's an honor to be up here. It's cool to follow Juliana talking about one of the biggest things that's happening in Oregon City, the First City event. I was there last year, and it was awesome. And now it's got all this momentum, and that momentum is carrying for more momentum. It is going to be really cool. And of course, I'm followed by Seth, who's going to talk about something that is changing the landscape in Oregon City in a big way, possibly the biggest thing since the sale of the mill property. So I'm looking forward to that. Okay, so I made this slide deck. It's 16 slides. last year, and I don't do spell check very well, and I don't have great grammar. In fact, last week I told somebody that I had this gravitational pull towards this idea, but later I found out that I spelled it P-O-O-L, like a swimming pool, and I caught myself, and it conveyed something completely different than I wanted. I wanted an emotional attachment, and I got a swimming hazard. So forgive, you've been forewarned. So this first slide, if you can see the picture up there, is that's the old elevator, right? And it's like 1914, 1915. So it lasted for 40 years or so. If I look at that picture and I see the architecture that existed at the time, it's their old houses, old buildings, and things have changed a lot. So this is a more recent photo, not quite 75 years ago, probably 70 years ago. And that weird thing right there, very strange looking alien ship landing in the middle of, this small city, is the elevator. And wow, I always think that elevator was so far ahead of its time, because you look at the buildings that surrounded it at the time, and it just was like, what were they thinking? It's just bizarre. But I think it's finally caught up to a good era. So 70 years ago, or maybe 60, this photo, is everybody familiar with this photo? This is the elevator, and then behind the elevator is the Chase Mansion. The Chase Mansion was known for elaborate architecture. The Chase family was tied to the city. It was a pretty famous place. There's stories out there of Sarah Chase, the surviving widower, chasing people off her property. She fought the elevator, the first one. I think she passed away during the era of the first elevator, and this is obviously the second elevator. But either way, that property up there got off to this hostile start. The very first owner had this elevator sprung on her, and she's like, I don't want this elevator, and I don't want you people. And so from the get-go, it was a hostile place to be, and we're going to change that. So interesting, she passed away, and in the 60s, they tore that probably dilapidated building down at the time and built a bank building. And that is the bank building. And finance people, and I'm a finance people, we're really proud of ourselves. So we like to get these huge signs that say, look at us, look how cool we are. And we think somehow in our mind that that's going to draw you to us because you're going to recognize how cool we are. So unfortunately, it doesn't work that way, does it? I know, because it's been a social study experiment for the last 10 years, having put my own sign up and seeing people walk up to the elevator, see my sign and go, oh my gosh, which way do I go, left or right? I got to get out of here. And I wonder if they experience the same thing. But if I look at the scale of the sign that existed on that building, it's almost the same mass as the elevator. It's huge. Can you imagine seeing that thing from West Lynn? I mean, it's just a massive sign. Yeah, no wonder they're not in business anymore. Does anybody recall the name of that bank? I think it was Citizens, but not the same Citizens that we have that we like, but I think it was a Citizens Bank. So that was another rough start for the property. First you had Sarah Chase chasing people away, and then you had these really well-intentioned, probably nice people, finance guys, throwing this massive sign up to try to push you away. So at some point, this was probably 10 or 11 years ago. At the time, I had this property at 1209 7th Street that we had developed. By the way, just because I'm in finance, but my dad was a contractor, so I had this kind of idea that I wanted to do stuff like he did, and so we developed this property up there. And when I got done with that property, I realized that I needed to start biking to work to get back in shape. And so I'm riding my bike to work, and Singer Hill is pretty steep. And so after a while, I'm like, oh, there's an elevator over there. Maybe I just take the elevator. Just cheat a little bit. Not like, like cheating like in a Coldplay concert, but like just slightly cheating on my exercise. So I took the elevator up, and I get out of the elevator, and I probably, realizing that I'd cheated myself, I'm kind of walking with shameful head, my eyes on the ground. And eventually I looked up, and I saw this building, and it was foreclosed. A different bank owned it, but they were trying to get rid of it. And it had, for sale signs on it. And And I thought, man, that's a really weird looking building. It reminds me of a hot dog. It's like ketchup red and mustard yellow. No wonder I don't look at it. It's in the morning. I'm not hungry for lunch yet. But I approached the bank, and the bank said, yeah, we want to get rid of this thing. Please take it off our hands. And they sold it inexpensively. And I thought, man, I got a good deal. And I walked in, and it's 6,000 square feet, and it looked like Pan's Labyrinth. It's divided up in all these different rooms, and there's no light coming in. And worst of all, there's water all over the floor, and there's mildew and mold on the walls, and it's like, oh no, what did I do? You know, but it turns out the paint scheme wasn't the color or the problem. The paint scheme was a warning. The problem was, in Oregon, a flat roof that you park on top of, it's not good. It's a recipe for disaster. So that was the start with this building. And so we hired good people. We hired a good architect, Derek Benson, and we completely gutted out the inside. We took out every single wall, stripped down everything, got rid of all the plaster, the mold, and just started new. And we spent a good amount of resources with this company called Pioneer Waterproofing. They do Pioneer Courthouse Square downtown, and that'll come back into play here in a minute. And we got the place in pretty good shape. So this is a drone video that may or may not play, provided by a new friend, Carl Falsgraf, who gave this to us. So I'm gonna click. Oh, there it goes. He picked out the music too. There it is. There's our superstructure. So since that video, which is about a month ago, the roof has been put on entirely. So now it's all roofed. And the concrete has been poured on the second deck and the first deck. So we got the concrete down. And we have a bunch of walls up, metal stud frame walls. So next month, which is going to be really exciting because we've got momentum going, we're going to get the glazing on the windows. So it's going to start to look more like this photo up here. So it'll be a giant set of curtain walls going from top to bottom. This perspective, by the way, doesn't really show it, but there's a lot of daylight in between the building and the elevator. So it looks really cool. Also, the roof line of our building matches the roof line of the Poe building next door. So it kind of looks like a butterfly from the bridge, which is really cool. So the architect did a good job. This is a courtyard perspective of the building. So if you're kind of looking at the building, standing by the elevator, it looks like this. We only lost one parking space, by the way, which is kind of cool. At the time, we really needed parking. Now there's a surplus. So we cantilevered out over the courtyard, covering part of the courtyard, creating a little dry area. So we started construction in 2024, which is really cool because we didn't have our permits yet. The permit process in Oregon City can be really complicated, as you know. It can take a while. Whoa, 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 whoa. It's not a hostile threat. But it's not as bad as other places, I can assure you. Although the first building that we did 15 years ago was really easy. It was easy and fast, and it didn't take very long, and the resources were, it's a really good process. Now it's not as fast, and it takes a lot more work, and it takes a lot more time. But the one thing that hasn't changed, and I'll take a moment to thank Jim Sayers and Jason Warner and Song and Jude and Meg and all the people that are building officials that have been advocates of this project and have helped us along every step of the way. I got an email from Jason Warner this morning. I got one from Jim Sayers last night. I've got Jason, my inspector, on my speed dial. These guys are awesome to work with. They make it possible. So I'm really, really thankful for that. Also thankful for Matthew Broderick back there who helped me with the brick campaign. Thank you, Matthew. And we're going to get to that. So there's this great view at the top of the elevator. The views are going to be really good from the office. And then this is a shot on the left, which is the promenade, which we're all familiar with. And then a shot of the right is the courtyard as it existed probably 6 or 7 months ago, or 10 months ago. So these finance people, again, they put this giant, large sign out there to propel people away. You think they'd learn? The courtyard at this point needed a makeover. Most of the concrete was cut up. It was chipping away. It looked pretty sad. It was ready. And so when we started thinking about the building, it was a natural that, hey, let's do the courtyard as well at the same time. And that's when I started thinking about my relationship with Pioneer Waterproofing, who did Pioneer Courthouse Square, and I thought, hey, they can sell bricks. Why can't we sell bricks? So Pioneer Courthouse Square is that's the Portland's living room. So we're calling this Oregon City's balcony. How's that? All right. Oregon City's balcony. And we're selling bricks. We finally figured out that people are not repelled by coffee signs. So we really want, and not necessarily that we need another coffee shop, we might, but we want retail. This property is meant for something other than boring office workers. It's meant for retail. There needs to be a pizza place, a tap room, a coffee place, a bagel shop, a bakery, something up at the top of the elevator where you can linger longer, as Lori Bell taught me. That's what we want to do. We want to go to the top of the elevator. We've got 120,000, 200,000 tourists. You know, we want to capture that momentum and keep building on it, and we want to keep them sticking around. Yes. So that's our idea. So this is what the courtyard currently looks like on the left. While we were putting down some of the bricks on the right, there is 4,500 potential bricks. Roughly 1 in every 40 people in Oregon City have bought a brick already. We're over 1,000 bricks sold. We are going to baby these things. We've got a big ribbon cutting coming up on the 13th of September if we get all our construction done, which always goes right on time, so no problem, no worries. We're going to have soft shoeless mini ponies at the ribbon cutting to protect the bricks. Balloons, raffles, fun, game, music, so look for that. The bricks look amazing. Everybody that has bought one has been really excited about it. It's really cool to see the community kind of light up and want to come see their brick and hang out. It's been a really fun project. If you want to buy a brick, you can go to elevateplaza.com or that's mybrick.com/elevate. Don't forget my story about gravitational pull. Really important here. When you write your brick out, you want to make sure you spell check and think it through, right? So, I am so thankful to have the opportunity to be up here and present this story to you guys. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Good afternoon. It's me again. I think I was here 2 months ago, tax increment financing. Hopefully this will be a little more exciting. My name's Seth Henderson. I am a co-founder and partner with Level Development Northwest. Sitting at that table right there is Jenny Jenkins, who is my partner. And we were asked to come give an update. How are things going on the courthouse property? And I thought, okay, so what questions do I think potentially people want answers on? And so what we came up with was essentially, what has the county done to date? What have they done to dispose of this property? What has the process been? How did we as a developer approach this site? How did we assess this site? What are we proposing? So what is actually in our proposal? Why did the county accept our proposal? And ultimately, where are we sitting today and what happens now? Juliana took some of my thunder, but anybody know what that picture's of? First City Celebration, this Saturday, the 26th. I look forward to seeing all of you there. As we go forward, a few quick disclaimers, and if you know me, none of these will come as a surprise. So first off, housing, development, politics, all intertwined right now, especially in Oregon. So there will be moments where I am on a soapbox, and just bear with me, I'll get through it. Secondly, if you've ever read any of the articles by the NIH, by Forbes, that measure expletives to honesty, let's just say I'm a very honest person. And finally, when we put this together, it was a couple of weeks ago, and we did not know who would be attending. Oregon City loves to come up with this conflict of interest, backroom deal rumors. So just to be absolutely clear, if there's anything in here that is positive about the county, it is not to curry favor in any way. And I will, to the best of my ability, try to balance some barbs so that the positive and negative equal out by the end. With that, let's get started. Okay, this is the only time during this presentation I will not be insulted if you pull out your phone, open the browser, type in Clackamas Main Street Courthouse RFEI. And if you do that, nobody's moving, that's great, okay. If you do that, it will bring up this page. Total and complete transparency. This is everything that's occurred to date. So you've got a quick narrative of the process. RFEI, request for expression of interest. So if a public entity is purchasing something, RFQ, request for quotation, they want to buy a bunch of screws. RFP, request for proposal, here's our services, this is what it's going to cost. RFEI, open canvas. Tell us, what would you propose? How would you approach this? What would you do? So there's a quick narrative up there. 3 documents, embedded links. You can take a look at the RFEI. I think it's 174 pages. So if anybody really wants to go down the rabbit hole, here is the RFEI all marked up with our comments. So if you want to get in my head and see how I actually approach these things. So I will just put this right here if anybody wants to look at that. So RFEI, I think 174 pages. Our proposal, you want to see our proposal in its entirety? Click on that second link up there. Third item, advisory committee. So the county very astutely put together a group of leaders from the community, and I'll actually show you the list of people so we can all hold them accountable. And that is their recommendation. So they discussed first, before the RFEI was ever issued, what should be in the RFEI? What do we want on the site? And then afterwards, the review of the proposals, though it was just one, but what was their recommendation and why? And we will actually look at that a little bit. On the schedule up there, so the second section, schedule, something I want all of you to look at. The first date is, when was the RFEI issued? January 22nd. When was it due? March 24th. 2 months. I want you to remember that because we're going to come back to it. So 2 months to get a response in. The meeting section, this is awesome. All of those are embedded links. So you want to watch a video and see how the county actually discussed an issue. You want to review the agenda. You want to review the minutes. It's all right there. And there's actually a date that is, it fell off. This is a print screen of the website. So the first date down in meetings, April 23rd, 2024. So Nancy Bush is asking for guidance from the Board of the County Commissioners on the courthouse once the county relocates in May of 2025. So if you were paying attention, you knew what was coming back in April of 2024. And by the way, by then, construction had already started. So if you talk with Juliana or anybody from DOCA, I think it was 21 or 22, we're screaming at the county, saying, hey, you know what's coming? A giant empty space at the 50-yard line of Main Street. And all the businesses are going to suffer. And if we can get started now, we can do entitlements, we can do permitting, we can make progress before suddenly the building's empty. Unfortunately, we are where we are today, but we are making progress. So we're moving in the right direction. The last thing I will say, May 15th, under meetings, May 15th. If you click on that and watch the video, it is really impressive. So 19, this is the testimony before the county commissioners. 19 business leaders, small businesses, middle of the workday, show up to give their testimony in support of what we are proposing for the courthouse property. And something that actually stuck with me is what Commissioner West said when he was reviewing prior to making the motion. And what he said is, I have to say this might be one of the most impressive gatherings of community small business owners that I have ever seen as an elected official in the middle of the workday to advocate for something they are passionate about. And so he made the motion, Commissioner Savas seconded, Chair Roberts voted in favor, 3-0. So, welcome. No pressure. Speaking of, so what exactly is our proposal? So this is the cover of our proposal. So in the 5 years that I've been working in Oregon City, something I hear all the time is this bait and switch. So, oh yeah, developers will show us this amazing picture. Ben, don't screw this up. And what is actually produced is something completely different. And so when I'm typically giving presentations, for instance, if you saw any of the presentations we did on the Rossman landfill, I'll pull up our proposal. I will show you exactly what we presented and why. And in this instance, we picked this photo. First of all, I want to know where that section of head is, because clearly that fell directly off the building somewhere. But if you look at this in detail, you'll see there are fractures all through this. And what exactly it is, it's a gentleman with a feathered hat holding an obelisk with an all-seeing eye and a bunch of rays coming off. It's kind of random, to tell you the truth. But that gives a clear indication of the current condition that we're going to be talking about. So that was the cover very specifically for our proposal. A lot of this I'm going to go through quickly. I will stop on some of the areas where there's relevant information. Blue cards, if you guys come up with questions as we're going through it, please write down those questions. I promise to answer them before the end, and I will try to wrap up by 12:45 so we have at least 15 minutes of questions. So cover letter, the one interesting thing here, there's an anecdote in that second paragraph. So before my partner and I ever looked at this property as a potential redevelopment, the first thing we did is we reached out to a bunch of historical developers. And if you remember Liz Hannum, she was the DOCA executive director before Juliana, and Mike Mitchell, current commissioner. I sat down with the two of them and historic developers, and we had a discussion about what it would take to save this building. The first question out of their mouths every single time, how much public funding do you have available for us? Based on my personal experience and knowing what that public funding would entail, that was the first time I was like, that's never going to happen. It's going to sit there 5 to 10 years. Let's see if we can come up with a proposal that the community is excited about that doesn't require a single dollar of public funds. Quickly here, just in italics, proposed development, management experience, acquisition overview. Those are 3 of the major things per the criteria from the county that they were looking for. Again, feel free to pull out your phones. You can click on that link and the proposal's on there. Okay, so how did we approach this proposal? So first of all, we read that 174 pages that's sitting right there, and we went through all of these studies that the county had done. And when we get to the end of the proposal, we're going to talk about some falsehoods that I've heard in the community, and one of them will be around the validity of those reports. But the first bullet there, I had a discussion with, actually had lunch with the geotechnical engineer who did the report, Brett Shipton. Went to Mi Familia. You guys ever go there? The Multi Carne, best pizza. And we walked the site, and I said, okay, here's the report. is this honest? Is this accurate? And in every case, when we met with the people that generated those reports were accurate, or the building's in worse shape than when those reports were done. And what he said is, as a geotechnical engineer, with the Cascadia subduction fault and the fact that we are overdue for an event, I hope I don't get anybody here to panic, but there is a 50% chance in the next 50 years that there is a significant event. What is a significant event? Depending on which engineer you talk to, somewhere between 6.8 and 7.2. So a lot of these historic downtowns are honestly going to be piles of historic brick, unless we figure out some way to save these buildings or do something with them. So that was the most impactful comment from that conversation that I had with that geotechnical engineer. What studies did we look at? The city has a ton of studies they've done. So the 2021 to 2041 housing needs analysis, so we took a look at that. What is Oregon City saying? What type of housing do they need? Where do they need that housing? Oregon City Downtown Community Plan from 1999. This is one of my favorite, because if you go to the paragraph after it, it gives a quick summary of what I think of that particular community plan. 25 years later, there continues to be no upper floor housing or any housing at all in downtown. Parking continues to be an issue, as well as a lack of a variety of pedestrian-oriented retail uses. So what that report said was, we need housing up above, we need more retail-type uses, and we need more parking, and potentially a parking structure. And in 25 years, none of that has occurred. We also looked at the Oregon City 2040 comp plan, specifically Chapter 2, which talks about a diverse economy. Okay, even more words. So we then looked at a survey that was done by DOCA with downtown businesses as well as community members in Oregon City. And the questions were, what is missing in downtown? What would you like to see in downtown? What are the risks to downtown? What are the strengths of downtown? So a lot of the typical questions that you would receive. And one of the things that I found really interesting was the restaurants downtown are considered both a strength and a risk. So need more diversification of retail, but the restaurants are great. The other one was the Blue Heron Mill site, so Tumwata Village. It is a potential benefit to downtown when it's produced and bringing people and potentially housing there as well. However, it's also a risk. Is it pulling people away from the historic downtown to this, what is essentially a 9-block development? SHPO, State Historical Preservation Office, they have done 2 surveys of this site. So we pulled up those surveys, read all of the components that they determine are historical. So what potentially would we be reusing? How would we reuse it? There's actually a plaque that's missing. It is safely in storage at the county, I've been told. A bunch of the components that were called out have been moved and integrated into the new courthouse as well. Site and building dimensions. So I brought a prop here. So the drawings that were sent out by the county were not dimensioned. And so we asked, is there a CAD set of drawings that has dimensions? So when we're figuring out how big the building is, how it fits, nope, you've got to figure it out. Okay, so it's about 7 o'clock, no, it's 6:30 on a rainy night before an Oregon City public meeting, and I'm going around with my measuring tape, measuring the whole exterior of the building. 46 inches. So as I'm shimmying along the back side of that building, this is how far it is from the northeast corner of that building to a straight drop-off. And it was really interesting because I had a conversation with the Bush family, and they remember when there used to be six vehicles that would park behind that building. You couldn't get one clown car in there today. I mean, that is how tight it is. What meetings did we have? So how did we engage the community? Before we ever put together the proposal, how did we engage the community? Okay, first of all, we showed up at the Two Rivers Neighborhood Association. So this site falls within the Two Rivers Neighborhood Association. Brought that RFEI and said, are you aware that this is on the street? And what do you guys want on this site? What do you think should be here? About 20 people showed up, which for an Oregon City public meeting is actually a lot. And they all provided input. So, okay, that gives us a quick idea of what maybe we'd want to propose for this site. This is ridiculous, but if you're doing mixed-use development today in Oregon, can anybody tell me what you start out designing on the first floor? It's the garbage room. So each provider for each city does it slightly differently. You have to make it as easy as possible for them to get the trash. You've got how many different types of recycling, depending on which municipality you're in. And so we go, you know what? We're meeting with Oregon City Garbage B&B Leasing, and we're going to find out where are we going to put the trash room? How big is the trash room going to be? How are the trucks going to access the site? We then met with a couple of members of the planning staff, Aquila before she went to Tualatin, as well as Christina. And we said, okay, based on Rossman landfill, I think we're aware of most of these overlays, but there's a couple of unique things. Can you give us some input into what you're going to be looking for as we're putting together this design? So we're getting input directly from the city. And then on March 14th, so before we submitted our proposal, we met with the 4 business owners that are most impacted, in our opinion. So that's Watershed, Bush Furniture, Nebula, The Verdict. And we said, okay, you guys are dealing with construction. Whatever happens here, it's going to impact you. What do you want? Here's our proposal. Tell us how we can make this better. And so they gave us some input. We incorporated that before we ever submitted our proposal to the county. So what did we propose and why? For starters, we have parking. I know that comes as a shock based on what Juliana said and the fact that I actually want to retain my friendships in Oregon City. So people are like, yes, you have to have parking. You're putting in housing. And everybody know what climate-friendly and equitable communities is, CFEC. So the state has said, if you are in a certain vicinity to public transit, you don't need any parking. Well, we are not required to have a single parking stall for this project. But what we are actually showing is structured parking. So if you think about all of the apartments in Oregon City, it's all surface parking. Why? It's the cheapest parking. The next most expensive is structured parking, so actually putting it in the building itself. And then subgrade is the third. Why is most of the parking surface parking in Oregon City? It relates to the rents. The lower the rents, you can't support structured parking or subgrade parking. In this instance, because of the grade, if you think about the grade of that site, you can do what would be called a daylit basement. So you have access within the footprint of the existing building. So we said, can we stay within this area of the building? We don't want to go digging into that dirt because you are digging into history. And so is there a way that we can stay within the footprint of the building? So what you're seeing there is, I think it's about 48 parking stalls accessible off of 8th Street. Elevator and all of your utility rooms are the corner gray rooms. So first floor. What we're proposing here is an expansion. We're not only retaining, but we're actually expanding and improving Liberty Plaza. So if you think about gathering places in downtown, there's not very many, and this is one of the most prominent. We're also thinning up the building, so you're going to open some view corridors across. We're adding about 12 stalls to the surface parking, plus the existing parking there that the county uses, which will now either be used by our tenants or will become public parking depending on what the city wants to do. You also have all the parking on 8th Street. So I see at least one representative of the engineering department. I am hoping that because the verdict size, the oldest operating commercial building in the state of Oregon, that site is never going to be improved. So if we go from its current layout, which is diagonal parking, which is all county parking, which will all become public parking, to the current cross-section of design where you are parking parallel, you're going to lose about half that parking. So I am hoping we can leave 8th Street just the way it is, and all that parking will become public parking. You have retail. Okay, so we talked about the diversity of retail in Oregon City. So when we were working on the Rossman landfill, we heard ice cream parlor, we heard bakery. If you want to buy a soda in downtown right now, where do you go? The liquor store. That's where you got to go to buy a soda downtown. So a market. There are very much specific retail needs, and that's what we would focus on. We will talk a bit about why we are proposing about 47% studios, 47% one-bedrooms, and 6% two-bedrooms. Why are we so heavy on studios and one-bedrooms? We're going to go into the data of that. And I got 10 minutes. All right, we're going to speed up. The great thing about this building, everybody know what this is? Masonic Lodge number 1. It's really cool. The City of Oregon City did something great in their zoning code. They set up a downtown district overlay. And the only thing that's in there is no building within X distance of this building can ever be higher. So you are capped at 58 feet. Mixed use downtown, you're 75 feet. But you get near this building, it's 58. You very rarely see a city go through that amount of effort to protect a building. Okay, so what is median family income, average median family income, based on room type, so unit type, 0 bedroom, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom. This is 2024 when we started putting it together. So when we're looking at who do we want living downtown, it's 1, probably 80 to 100% MFI. 2, they have to have enough disposable income to support the businesses. So we're honing in on a very specific tenant for this building. Furthermore, when you think about the employees of a lot of those businesses down there, this is exactly who we are targeting. On the right, I know you can't read that, but it is actually a breakdown of all the unit types in Oregon City. So the dark blue is 4 bedrooms. It's about 6%. So in all of Oregon City, 6% of the for rental product is 4 bedrooms. The green is 2 bedrooms. The orange is studios. The yellow is 3 bedrooms. And blue is 1 bedrooms. 2/3 of the product in Oregon City is 2 bedrooms or larger. So when you're looking at what currently is missing in Oregon City, it's studios and 1 bedrooms. There's another component to this, which is if you're producing new product, how do you get to the lowest price point to get a roof over someone's head? You do a super efficient studio or 1 bedroom. So you're trying to hit that lowest price point. Everyone still awake? Okay. Anybody in this room go to Mount Pleasant School? Yes, few people did. Okay, so when Oregon City built the new Robert Libke Public Safety Building, they demoed that school and put up this monument. Few things to note. That school, 1929. The courthouse, 1935 according to SHPO, 1936 according to the historic record. I think it's 1937 on the building itself. Needless to say, the courthouse is older than that building. You go to SHPO's Oregon Historic Sites database. This is really cool. And you say, Oregon City, how many historically contributing addresses are there in Oregon City? Anyone want to guess without looking up there? 3,077. Older than 1900, 45. Older than the courthouse, 822. So there are some individuals that say this is an extremely sensitive historical building that we should never touch. Just so you know, there's 822 older buildings in Oregon City. And right across the street is the oldest operating commercial building in Oregon City. Liberty Plaza, named after the Liberty Theater that used to be there. That was torn down. So we are opening that up, thinning up the building. So now you're expanding that plaza, and now you're going to have retail that opens on that plaza. We will go through an in-depth process with the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee to talk about the different uses. If you go and look right now, there's a big infill. That's where a basalt fountain used to be. Does it make sense to have another water element? Stadium seating, lighting. What would you want in that plaza for it to be the gathering place of downtown? It's not bad now. I think we can do better. And by the way, we're talking about purchasing that, making it bigger, designing, engineering, permitting, building, then dedicating it back to the city. So the city will actually own it. Timeline. Let's talk about timeline. So ideally, that building would be remediated, so lead and asbestos out of it, and the building demoed during which months? January and February. January and February are the only 2 months where there are no public events occurring in that plaza, and the worst months for retail. So if you're looking at when do we actually want to demo this thing, it would be January, February. So if everything goes as planned, we are going to wrap up the DDA hopefully by the end of August. We would look to close by the first of the year, abate, demo the building, get entitlements by end of next summer. Then we'd move into permitting, have our permits by, let's say, March of 27, so right when the weather starts to turn, and then it's probably 16 months to build that. So right now, we are hoping summer, fall of 28, and that is moving, right? That's about as quick as you can go. Talked about level development, that's us. Ankrum Moyson is the architect we proposed. Outstanding firm out of Portland. Lease Crutcher Lewis, union contractor, 1886. I know compared to Oregon City, that's old, but yeah, 1886. I guess it'd be young. Yeah. So they're focused in Washington and Oregon. So we're talking local firms, great partners. Won't spend a lot of time on this. That's our org chart. If you ever want to know what does a developer actually manage, those are all the entities that we end up managing. So top are public entities, then you've got all your consultants and then sub-consultants. Only thing I'll say about Jenny and I, we've got 50 years combined experience in Portland Metro. We broke ground in Gresham, right across from the high school, north end of historical downtown Gresham, 117 units. That is our 15th project in 12 years. We have a project in Wilsonville's New Town Center, breaking ground Q1 of next year. That's 16, and this would be 17 by then in 15 years. So we've been doing about one project a year, only in Portland Metro. So this is all of our team. One, I will point out, it's a little unusual to pick a landscape architect as part of your initial team. If you've ever met Kurt Lango of Lango Hansen Landscape Architects, he is phenomenal. And there's a list down there. So Wesleyan Park, Kanema Park, Clackamas Park Master Plan, Library Park, Tyrone Woods Memorial Park. He worked on all those parks in Oregon City. So we are specifically looking for people that have experience working in the municipality where we will be doing work. Reference letters, DOCA, OCBA, the Chamber, the 3 biggest business entities in Oregon City. Okay, what projects have we worked on previously? Relevant experience. Grand and Belmont, you're in downtown Portland, you drive across the Morrison Bridge, you look on your right-hand side, 5/2, all brick building. And that is Ankrum Moyson and Lee Crutcher Lewis. So I hate when you're taking proposals from architects and general contractors and they go, we've got 50 projects just like yours. And you go, great. Your project manager and superintendent, how many of those 50 did they work on? None? Okay. So no relevant knowledge, actually. This is the Windward. If you guys know where Salt and Straw is in downtown LO, so that is a super block. At that time, I worked for PHK Development, and Jenny worked for Ankrum Moyson. But that also was Lee Crutcher Lewis and Ankrum Moyson. Marvel 29, if you know where the St. John's Bridge is, you go across the St. John's Bridge, you'll see it in the bottom corner there on your left-hand side, full block, 4 stories. You can see the copper patina on that curved radius. It's the coolest element of that project, in my opinion. Slabtown Flats. The reason this is in here, it's similar size. So that is a 5/1 project in Slabtown, which is North Portland. That was actually Bremick Construction and Sarah Architects, but that is kind of the size that we're talking about. This property is a little longer. Multnomah Village Apartments. So this is not one of those wow projects. This is Multnomah Village, which is southwest Portland, if you've ever been there. Hadn't had new retail since the 1980s. We come in and say, hey, we want to develop this 4-story project, mixed use. And initially, the people that lived there were like, we want nothing to do with you. Get the hell out of here. And we went through a number of meetings. We showed them what we were going to do. We ended up producing that, and we went out to local brands. So for that retail, you had Spielman's Bagels, Blue Star Donuts, and Little Big Burger. And I remember we finished that in like December, the worst leasing months. And that thing was leased up by the summer. And every Saturday and Sunday during that summer, the families would walk down, and Blue Star Donuts would be sold out by noon. And personally, I think there's better donuts out there. But there was just that demand, and that was the retail that the families there were looking for. So in terms of a project being successful for the community, it's a really good example. Okay, last thing, recommendations and considerations. There's the list of everybody that was on the committee. So if anything you just saw you were unhappy with, you can talk to these individuals. So DOCA, Chamber, OCBA, City of Oregon City, Clackamas County, West Two Rivers Neighborhood Association. How did they assess the proposals? Financial capacity to acquire the property and implement the proposal. There's nothing worse than in a proposal getting a beautiful image that the developer knows financially they can never produce, right? So does the firm that's proposing actually have the ability to execute upon what they're proposing? So this would be between $26 and $27 million. Let's assume 60 to 65% loan to cost. That means we're raising about $9 million, a little over $9 million in private equity. And the rest of that would be a construction loan. We raised $13 million for Gresham and about $12.5 million for Wilsonville. And those are the 2 most recent projects that we're working on. Agency and management experience. Have we done this before? Hopefully after this presentation, you feel we are competent. Contribution to the economic vitality of the downtown Oregon City. We're providing parking we're providing public space, we are providing housing. Something else I didn't point out, if you looked at that housing layout, there's no amenity. There's no roof deck, there's no club room. Why is that? We don't want people in the building. We want people going out to the businesses and spending their money. So there's some risk for us as a developer. Our tenant's gonna go, well, there's no amenities, so we don't wanna be in it. But we think that the offset, the potential benefit is worth that risk. Preservation of historical significance of the building and its environs. We've done a review of all of SHPO's components, their surveys. We're gonna incorporate those elements into the new building or the expanded plaza next to it. Retention of the portion site known as Liberty Plaza. We talked about that in detail. Project timeline, we talked about that as well. Recommendation, the committee recommended that the county accept our proposal, and the consideration was, we're not sure we trust these guys, so make sure it's a DDA, which requires us to execute a specific vision. So it's not just purchasing the property, but it's purchasing the property and executing X within Y timeline. Very quickly. Very quickly is correct. Is there anything else here that is, yeah, I guess we can probably dive directly into questions. Thank you for your time.
A lot of great information, great visuals, very thorough, exciting, but challenging. Look, come on in. Come on in here where everybody can be together.
After the presentation, you don't want to stand next to me?
So I've only got 4 questions, so that's good because we don't have a lot of time. But if there are any other questions, go ahead and just raise your hand, and we'll swing by and pick it up. But Seth, as kind of a follow-up, since you were the lengthiest presentation, you mentioned that as part of your submittal, you had to be financially qualified to be able to perform on your proposal. A lot of projects have been tabled in today's environment marketplace due to the high interest rates, unknown of what costs for construction might be because of the tariffs that are going into effect with our new administrative policies. Does the 26 to 27 million figure, do you have actually contractors that have given you that estimate, or is that just an engineer's estimate? There's a mic.
You're keeping yours?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is actually a very rough concept estimate from Lee Scrutcher Lewis, right? So we have them on our team. What's going to happen with tariffs? Anybody know? You could make a lot of money if you did. What happens with interest rates? What does the Federal Reserve Board do? You may have seen that City of Portland announced that they are waiving SDCs on the next 5,000 housing units. So awesome for housing production. If you think about how much of the construction capacity that's going to suck up, we've been getting great numbers for the last year because people are hungry right now. If all of those units go into construction about the same time, you're going to see hard costs shoot up again. Anybody watch? Can I keep going?
Yeah.
Quick? Did anybody watch last week the SDC, the water parks SDC discussion here in Oregon City? Yes. So some people were there watching. Okay. So during that, not only did the SDCs get raised, which is logical, but the public officials also stated that developers do not pay their fair share. So disparaged the entire industry of development in one fell swoop. So there are decisions being made every day that impact our ability to produce housing. And last week was an example of that.
Okay, great, thank you.
That was the soapbox.
Well, you're not done yet, believe me. Juliana, what is the current occupancy rate downtown, and what is the trend?
We actually don't have that many vacant buildings right now. The 2 biggest ones that are vacant will require a lot of work to become available to rent. But I actually have people reaching out pretty consistently looking for spaces down there. So great news.
Okay, good. While you've got the microphone, we'll see if you're best to answer this. What considerations have been given to maximizing the opportunities for video projecting on the elevator?
That's a fun question. I do not know how to answer that question, to be honest with you. That hasn't really been a priority of ours at this point. It is something we can talk about and look at for maybe the coming years, but we've had a lot of other things that we needed to focus on right now.
I know during the holidays, don't they do some illumination of Singer Falls and the elevator?
They had in the past. The person that owned that business is no longer in business, so we would have to do a lot of rethinking and reimagining that.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, another potential tenant downtown.
That's right.
All right. Have there been any seismic calculations made on the current elevator? Since there's a lot of seismic calculations being done on the existing courthouse.
I can talk about the courthouse.
Do we need to worry about it falling down someday?
Okay, yeah, I'll take that one. I seem like the appropriate person. But we actually did core drilling in our property, I think 18 feet down as part of the geotechnical analysis requirements, and it's granite. I mean, so I don't know that means the elevator is going to stay up, but other than Sarah Chase coming back and haunting the glass and banging it out last week, it's pretty stable. Yeah.
That is good to know. Back to you, Juliana. What is the cost estimate of the alleyway lighting project?
What is the cost estimate? About
Yes.
$75,000 for that project.
For that alleyway.
Same. Yep.
Okay. And I think this has to do with Liberty Plaza, Seth, so I'm going to have you grab the microphone back. Seth, what was the reasoning behind having the city own the property versus private businesses? And I think that's Liberty Plaza.
Because it was a requirement of the RFEI. No, the thought process there is one, long-term maintenance of that. So the city, Public Works. Two, I personally do not want to be out there on a daily basis addressing any squatting that's occurring. I am not the proper person to deal with that. And it has been reiterated to us by a number of individuals, elected officials and otherwise in Oregon City, that they don't trust developers, so they want to own it and have control of it so that in the future we don't make it an amenity of our building and not of the community.
And I used to be a developer.
I know.
I know what you're talking about. All right, does anybody else have any questions out there? What if, in a perfect world, how soon would you be closing on the purchase of the land?
May 15th we talked about, you missed a great quote I pulled up. And we submitted, in fact, I have all the dates, so June 9th, we submitted the DDA. July 14th, got it back from the county. We submitted our comments on the 28th. We hope that DDA goes before the county by the end of August. If the county were to approve that, then we can start signing contracts and spending money. So our hope would be that we would start with all of our due diligence as early as the end of August. And then obviously the abatement and demo we'd want to do in January and February.
Yeah, I remember you talking about those are the best months because of dust control by having some winter rains. And also that's the slowest time downtown. So it's kind of the best for both worlds. Do the county commissioners have anything they'd like to share? No? We'll do that behind closed doors. All right, well, again, I want to thank our panelists, Ben, Juliana, Seth, for today's presentation.
Well done.
A lot of great information.
You guys stay awake?
Stay tuned.
So much information.
And I did go to Mount Pleasant Grade School. I know that school well. So again, on behalf of the Oregon City Business Alliance, I want to thank each and every one of you for coming today. It's going to be a beautiful day. Tomorrow is going to hit 90, then the 80s for the upcoming week. On your table, before you leave, feel free to go ahead and grab one of these brochures. This is what we'll be handing out at the First City Celebration this Saturday, but you get a sneak preview of it by being able to take a copy of it home with you today. Again, if you're not a member, the little business cards have our QR code. You can go to our website, find out all about the history of the Oregon City Business Alliance. Okay, can we have a quiet here, folks? Not done yet. So next month, we always like to give you a little teaser. We're going to have a legislative update. As you know, the long session has now concluded. A little bit of controversy because ODOT did not get a transportation bill approved. So we're bringing in State Senator Mark Meek, who had a big role in that bill not going through, as well as Republican Chair Christine Drazen, to go ahead and share a perspective from both the Republican and the Democratic side, what their accomplishments were, what they hope to be able to work on during the summer and be ready for the short session next year. So we hope that all of you can join us for that. I think it'll be a great discussion. And hopefully they do finalize a transportation package sometime soon. In the meantime, all the funds that were earmarked for the completion of the seismic improvements on the I-205 bridge are in place. So that will continue to go forward. They will not be stopping those improvements. ODOT is not allowed to take those dollars and use it for anything else now that it's been earmarked for that purpose. So that's good news for those of us that drive that every day. So that's all I have. Again, County Commissioners, I did introduce all of you at the beginning of our meeting, but I know that you have a standing meeting on Tuesdays. We knew you were going to get here. We just didn't know when. So hopefully we'll see you again next month. That being said, have a great day and see you soon.